It's great.
I see you.
Alrighty. Very good afternoon and evening for some people for our actually ninth e-learning session of Asian Ecotourism Network. Today, we have Mallika, Jasmine Naguran, if I pronounce this correctly, I hope,
Yep.
who's based in both Singapore and Tasmania, Australia. She's now in Tasmania. And the session is about how to use storytelling to connect with customers. She is the board member of AEN and currently working very much to help us on this media partnership, which we are very keen to expand our network. So I would like to further ado welcome Mallika for her session. And now it's all yours.
Thank you,
Oh,
Masaru.
yeah. And just so sorry. And I forgot to just to mention that we would have a Q&A session toward the end of the session. So please jot down if you have any questions. I will come back to you later. Thank you so much. Mallika?
Okay, thanks, Masaru. Now, at any time where my voice doesn't come through or it gets broken up, please let me know. Okay. So my session's on how to use storytelling to connect with customers. Now, when I was young, I was preoccupied with butterflies. On the wall in the living room was a framed display of butterflies. It was not a painting. It was not a photograph. It was a showcase of actual butterflies with pins in them. But they were dead. So you can imagine as a young child, my feelings in looking at this display on the wall. I was fascinated by the color, the size, the beauty of the butterflies, but I was afraid. I was afraid because they looked alive. Their eyes looked at me as I looked at them. I was terrified of one insect next to these, a scorpion. That too was pinned in the frame next to those butterflies, and all of those were once alive. As a child, when I was napping, trying to nap on the sofa, I used to think that these insects would come out of the frame. The scorpion would then crawl around the house and all over me as I napped. That was my imagination, and that was my fear. Now I must tell you that these butterflies came from a place far away from my home in Singapore. They came from Cameron Highlands, a mountainous region in the state of Pahang of West Malaysia. Cameron Highlands is a major tourist attraction. It has a cool climate, beautiful strawberry fields, and tea plantations. When I was small, I saw that Cameron Highlands had an amazing variety of insects like butterflies and beetles and birds and animals, even the Malayan tiger. Tourists flock to Cameron Highlands to view such wildlife. Today as an adult, I see that the Cameron Highlands has lost some hills. They are flattened due to development for hotels, for apartments for Airbnb, and agriculture. Vegetables from the highlands are taken down to the rest of Malaysia and exported overseas, even to Singapore. As an adult, I am no longer surrounded by those beautiful butterflies that I saw on the wall. They are no longer dancing around me. They are no longer flitting from flower to flower. There are some butterflies, of course, but not as many and not as large as before. In the last few decades, the large and special species of butterflies have been the target of poachers. The residents who catch them end up selling to collectors within Malaysia and from overseas, sometimes as far away as Japan. I guess when you capture butterflies, you also capture their beauty. Over the years, I kept going to Cameron Highlands because of the cool climate and natural attractions like the mossy forest. Although Cameron Highlands had lost some of its forest to overdevelopment, it still drew me. I went trekking. Nature guides pointed out plants of interest and animals. For instance, in the mossy forest, the guide explained how the rainforest ecosystem worked, how the trees help with the creation of rain, which then forms the river. Without the rainforest, there'll be less rain and more dry seasons. Rainforests help replenish the water in the river for drinking, for watering of crops, and for food because there'll be fish. I learned about nature and its fragility. I felt I needed to do something about preserving nature. Since then, I was committed to conservation. I used to be a travel writer, writing about luxurious places. But since then, I decided to write about travel with eco-consciousness. So that became a turning point in my life. Going on nature trips and learning from ecotourism guides triggered a change in me. It was one of the main reasons for starting Gaia Discovery. So Gaia Discovery was founded in 1988 as an independent media to inform and create awareness of the environment and of sustainability. So through positive stories and the sharing of best practices, my team and I hope to change mindsets of consumers, travelers, and businesses towards a more sustainable world. This is the website. This is what it looks like. We reach out to the world. Mostly we have readers from Southeast Asia, also from India, UK, US, and Europe, Australia. We get about 500,000 page views and about 30,000 visitors a month. And we write about destinations, developments in areas of attractions. We write about reviews of eco-lodges. We report on environmental news, innovations, new practices, and we cover trends. We also interview people who are change makers, and they can be anybody. They can be a tour guide, they could be a scientist, you know. So we just try to make our stories interesting, and we rely a lot on the storytelling technique to channel the message across. We cover festivals in Asia Pacific because through festivals you communicate culture and the people who celebrate this culture and heritage as well. And we write about events. Gaia Discovery is guided by experts, and they lend some direction to us. And we have writers from around the world, and we have offices in Singapore and Australia. So essentially, I have told you the story of how I started Gaia Discovery. And before I go into storytelling techniques, let me tell you why it is important. Let's discuss why it's important to connect with customers. Now, firstly, in terms of customer engagement, we have to ask why. Why do we want to have customer engagement? Now, the very quick thinking, or the first thing that you would say on top of your mind is, it's to maintain contact. You want to keep contact with your customers, or even to stakeholders, right? Important stakeholders. But it's also important to go beyond transaction to think long-term in terms of building customer relations, to the effect of even creating a connection or a bond. Now, this is one of the building blocks of loyalty. If you want to build loyalty among customers, first think about how you want to create a connection or a bond. So for instance, when I receive an email or an e-newsletter regularly, I feel valued, okay? So it's useful to think in terms of creating a bond with various stakeholders, not just customers, but also say your investors and your suppliers, even institutes, research institutes, if you work a lot with nature and conservation organizations, NGOs, and media. So it's important to have, to build connection with media so that they understand what you do. And staff as well. Don't leave staff out when you try to share your stories to your customers. Now, most importantly, we need to educate, because education helps increase tourism responsibility so that the next generation of travelers will have strong ethics on preserving the Earth's resources and on sustainable living. Now, in the Asian Ecotourism Network, there are so many of you people who have incredible knowledge about nature, about conservation, and about birds, about insects. You know, don't keep the knowledge to yourself. If you're a walking encyclopedia, which I'm sure some of you are, why not share these? Remember how I was converted when I went trekking through the mossy forest. And I still go there every year because it is just so special and I learn something new each time. So using nature as an educational medium is something that ecotourism players should do. And if I can just bring you back to the definition of ecotourism, you know, as opposed to nature tourism, you know, beyond conserving the environment and socially and economically sustaining the well-being of the local people, there is also the huge responsibility of creating knowledge and understanding through interpretation and education of all involved, right? So it is through such sharing, you can build connection, you can build customer engagement. And this is where you inspire others, right? So the knowledge gain could inspire others to do something different. Like children and adults, they need sparks for inspiration. And of course, you know, it's important to have that transaction, that sales, that tour booking, that room booking, that transport, you know, booking, so that you can sustain your business and, you know, pay your staff. But at the end of the day, I think that, you know, in terms of building loyalty, that should be the end goal. So I'm not sure whether you agree with me, and I'd love to get your viewpoint. Now, in terms of how do we go about building this customer engagement? Of course, you know, if you're not meeting your customer face to face, you use media, the various forms of media, and they can range from, say, websites to social media, right? So in terms of website, you can use your corporate website to put up news, you can put up stories in the form of blogs, right? But the thing about blogs is they are there on your website. You know, how do you get people to go to your website to read those stories, right? So in a way, it's a passive form of communicating stories. Now, social media, you know, I think a lot of people bank on social media to carry out marketing, to build awareness, and to communicate new developments. But be cautious of social media because of its transient nature. So let's just say Facebook, you know, not many people would go to your Facebook page and scroll down and see what you have written last week or what you have posted last month. Maybe last week's story is very, very important, but it's gone. It's like a post and that's it, right? So in my opinion, I think capturing stories in a more lasting format, like in the form of blogs or newsletter, is more valuable. Of course, some companies will put out press releases. However, these are for really newsworthy events. So if you are launching a product, it has to be distinct. Just because you have a new feature, it may not warrant a newsletter, a press release. Maybe you could share that on Facebook and, use the database that you've built to also issue a press release. Now, press releases are meant actually for media. So your journalist contacts in the newspaper, broadcast media, online publications, even bloggers, I hope that, if you are serious about building your marketing and building your reach to others, you would start building a database of media contacts. Okay. And in terms of crafting a press release, it's not very simple. There are certain rules. If you don't know how to go about it, you could engage a public relations company, or you can always ask me, I can help you. All right. Of course, videos are a wonderful way of communicating stories through visuals and audio, and movement and the drama, people would want to tune in. But it is time consuming, and it may cost a lot of money, for you to hire professional services. If you do a poor quality video, it doesn't say very much for your company, really. And again, when you put your video up, where do you put it up? It's on YouTube, or you put it up through social media. And once again, it has a very transient value to it, right? So these are the things that you want to bear in mind. Now, letters, postcards, email, newsletter, e-newsletter, these are forms of direct marketing. Now, remember the joy of getting a postcard in the mail? Do you remember that? Well, I still get postcards. Well, not that many, but I send out postcards more than I receive. And I love them because they are very personalized, and there's a little message there just for you. Now, in the digital space, e-newsletter can come close to that, provided you have segmented your audience, but you can definitely explore it. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the direct marketing method to engage customers, primarily e-newsletters, because we have gone past the era where we print newsletters and send out. It's just too time consuming, and it uses paper, and it's just gone, that era, I think. So in terms of the e-newsletter medium, it can be an email that you receive from a company, right? Okay, so, or it's an e-newsletter with various forms and a template. I think the e-newsletter is versatile because you can use it for many purposes. Like you could use it as an announcement, or you could use it as to share a story, right? You could even use it to say, that you have done some measuring of the environment. You have new data, and you want to share this data. So it's a beautiful medium, I think. And for Gaia Discovery as a media, we also use e-newsletters, even though we have website, because we want to push out these articles to our readers, right? And so this is an active way of reaching out to your stakeholders, whereas putting a blog up is kind of passive, right? And newsletters can be done, for the purpose of immediacy, or, you know, in terms of reflecting or being retrospective. For instance, when you have done your sustainability reporting, you could write about it, you know, or you could take stock, say, you know, at the end of 2020, we look back and we say how we have coped with this severely challenging thing called COVID-19. How did we do it? You know, so maybe you may want to start gathering material for such a newsletter, right? Now, in terms of content, it's dynamic. You can write about people, and the people can be about your staff. It can be about your customers. It could be about your interns who are learning something beautiful by being in your resort. You know, it could be about the environment, and the environment, again, it doesn't have to be serious stuff like, oh, climate change. You know, it could be like this beautiful bird that's coming through, and it's a migratory bird, right? So what is this bird that's coming through? And you can talk about it. Okay, this would appeal to people. And, you know, talk about culture as well. Talk about people. Tell a story. Tell any story. Everybody has a story. Your chef has a story. What is that story behind that food? You know, behind that beautiful gado-gado, you know? What is that story? What's the story of your housekeeper? Okay. And of course, in a newsletter, you are free to display your products and services, you know. I'm sure your customers, if they've traveled with you before, they want to know what's new, right? You can add offers, you can add promotions. And I think it's also important to bear in mind that you put in there something to request for participation or for feedback, because you are talking to people, you want people to talk with you as well. So try to see the e-newsletter medium as not just from you to your audience, but also the other way around. So to give you an example, when I send out my newsletter, and I think a few of you do get that, we always have a forward, and I will say, oh, hello, read, you know, Mr. whatever. And then I say, thank you, you know, say hello, or tell me what you think. And even when people just click reply and they say hello, you know, I smile, because I know I'm reaching out to people and they're reading. It makes me happy because I spend a lot of time doing the newsletters, right? So the next thing is subject header and titles. Now keep the subject header short and succinct, be descriptive, capture the essence of the message in your header, okay? So instead of saying newsletter issue 45, or instead of saying hello from Ginger Resort, how about saying migrating birds at Ginger Resort? Okay, so you see the difference. Avoid the use of exclamation marks. Okay, that is like a spam alert. All right, you don't want email servers to put you in spam folder. Okay, so be very careful about all of those when you craft your e-newsletter. So now let's move on to content and the techniques for creating content. So again, we're talking about storytelling, and the storytelling is to engage, it's to build a connection, it's to get people on your side, it's to help make a sale, it's to build loyalty. So first of all, we're talking about stories. Now, stories are one of the best ways to connect with people. Okay, as the saying goes, nobody does business with a company. People do business with people. So what makes a compelling story? It could be the idea of the extraordinary. It could be something endearing. It could have an element of surprise. For instance, the tour guide that took me through mossy forests in Cameron Highlands, he used to be a poacher once. He used to poach butterflies because he didn't know any better, right? So imagine a story being told by him about his conversion. Compelling story would also be a tour operation that brings new job opportunities to a village community. It could also be an ecotourism operations that helps boost biodiversity. It could be your life journey, okay? You, every one of you, what was your life journey? Okay, why are you here listening to me talking about this? You know, what is your interest in ecotourism, in sustainability? Okay, what was your conversion like? Okay, so you can write about that. Now, you don't always have to write about successes because life is not full of successes, it's also full of mistakes. You can write about mistakes. You can write about something that has been a little sad. You can write about the challenges you're going through right now, you know, and you know what? It would resonate. People would identify with you, okay? So you can also say, hey, you know, we're struggling and we need help, okay? Why not? Now, messages. Okay, have in mind what are your key messages in attempting to write this story, okay? Say a key message could be that you are trying to stay afloat during the coronavirus pandemic, like how you and your staff are coping, okay? Or you want to establish yourself as an expert in a particular aspect of ecotourism. So that could be a key message. Or a key message could be a conservation area that's being threatened and that you are asking for help. Okay, so bear in mind what the key message is. You could write down, this is my key message. Okay, so write it down helps. Tone of voice. Now, do the readers in reading your story sense a voice that is urgent, that's interested, that's passionate? So is your tone of voice involved or are you detached? In writing, do you sound sincere? Okay, so have someone read and give you feedback about what you've written. Even choice of words affects the tone of the message. So avoid big words, avoid jargon. So the use of the first person's voice, such as I and we, they always make the content more approachable. Okay. I'm just gonna stop here for a bit. Masaru, is everything okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, because I feel like I'm just speaking to a screen at the moment.
You are, but the rest of us are hearing.
Yeah, okay, great. Now I'm going to talk about points of view. Now, points of view is very important because you can tell the story from the perspective of different people. For example, you know, from whose perspective is the story being told? Is it the manager? Is it the tour guide? Is it the chef? Is it the villager? Is it the customer? So within a newsletter, a variety of viewpoints can give greater depth to storytelling. Okay? So be generous with points of view. It doesn't just have to come from you. Okay? What is your staff point of view? Your staff can write, or rather your staff can narrate and you can write it out. Okay? Images, videos, these are really important to have beautiful pictures. You know, you can have a nice video to go in your story because these appeal to the various senses. Now, call for action is important. For instance, you can say, contact us, join us on Facebook, purchase now, support, donate, tell others. Okay, don't forget what your call for action is. Always try to add an element of excitement. For instance, in your article, you can have a title that says, "Did you know?" Okay? So you're asking a question and the person's thinking, "Oh, did I know?" Right? And if you are, raising funds, try to make it fun. You can have quizzes, you can have contests, right? And of course, there's also regularity. If you're putting out an e-newsletter, are you going to do it monthly or once a quarter or weekly? It's good to stick to what you have planned. And in reality, putting together a newsletter is a lot of work. So ideally, you have more than one person doing it. And ideally, the person can write, okay? Of course, some people, they do it in-house. Others, they engage the services of others. That's also okay. Now, if you're thinking of sending out a weekly newsletter, I would say avoid Mondays, because I think Mondays are the busiest days, and I think a lot of people have Monday blues. So, they just want to get on with work. So I think sometime midweek is a good time to send a newsletter. Okay, so we go on to how to tell a story. So how do you tell a story? What's in the story? First of all, you introduce the main subject, right? So who is the narrator? Now the narrator could be the lodge owner, or it could be the tour manager. Okay, or within the e-newsletter, the narrator can change within each mini story. Establish the context. So what is the setting? Is it at your lodge operations? What is the month? Which year? What is the situation? What is the global situation? What's the crisis? Who are involved? State the challenge or the problem, like, is it a resource management issue? Is there a need for tourism revenue to support wildlife funding? And how does that make you feel? Okay, how are you motivated? How are your staff being affected? So the personal element is pretty important because that creates empathy. And share how the solution or change came about. Describe the steps taken, the people involved, the change that have been effected, right? So this change is very intriguing. People want to know why did you do that? Why did you change? How did you become this tour guide? Why did you leave your corporate job to run this remote resort? Why? Okay, so explain how the change came about. And how does the change relate to the subject now? Is the community benefiting from it? Are the sharks protected better? And what does it matter? Okay, so what is the universal message here beyond me and my world? Okay. And look back at your newsletter and see if you have achieved your message, whether you've successfully communicated your thoughts and your intent. And meet the goal. The goal is to tell compelling stories with key messages so as to keep your stakeholders informed, engaged to the point of being involved, and being loyal to your brand. So have you met your goal? So with all these techniques and form and storytelling ways, let's bear all of that in mind as we go through some sample e-newsletters. I've picked 2 companies who send me newsletters regularly. Now I have received a number of newsletters, and I must say that there are a few very good ones. But I'm only picking 2, okay, for the purpose of this session. So let's discuss. And following the end of this session, I would love for you to give your views on what you think the newsletters do or what kind of effect they have on you. First of all, we look at Six Senses hotels and resorts and spas. Now, this brand, they manage 18 hotels and resorts. They have 30 spas in 21 countries under the Six Senses, Everson, and Six Senses Spas brands. Okay, they pretty much have embraced sustainability principles from what I can tell. I've yet to visit their resort. And they also share their achievements and they put out a sustainability report. Okay. Now let's take a look at this newsletter. First of all, I hope you can see my cursor here. The subject header is Growing the Love. Okay. So that's the subject header. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, what is this Growing the Love? And this is the newsletter. It's got strong branding. It's got a beautiful picture of people greeting the morning sun, yoga on the beach. And then here they have addressed me saying, Dear Mr. or Mrs. Naguran. So I'm hoping that at some point in time they will know that I'm a female. Okay. So this is the beginning, and then the format of the newsletter is pretty neat, I must say. There are mini stories packed in these little rows here. So this particular article here is about a contest, right? It says, show your love for your favorite Six Senses hotels and resorts, and you could win a getaway for 2. Find out more. Okay, so you have to click to find out more. All right, so this is a 2-step process, right? Here, this is about their impacts on community and environment and the sharing of the impacts. So it's a report that they would like to share with the stakeholders. Find out more, they say, click here. And this story is interesting because it's about a recipe that's been created it's like a hand balm, you know, for dry and overwashed hands. And they say, click here to tune into the video tutorial. Now, this is pretty current because all of us are washing our hands to death, you know, sanitizing and all, you know, so this is interesting. And here's a beautiful picture of the manta ray. And I love the description here. It says, bringing our gentle giants to you. At Six Senses, nature is not just all around the resort. You're in the middle of it. From camel washing to swimming with mantas, junior marine biology and live footage of our turtles hatching. This month, we bring it all to you. Right. So in this newsletter itself, the Six Senses is inviting stakeholders to look closer at nature, look at the live footage of turtles hatching, right? So a lot of content there. And there is a story about how they have stood in solidarity with the community during pandemic. Some communities have been adversely affected. So they had donated fresh food from their gardens and helped them in other ways. Find out more. The last story is about what's new for 2020. So again, it's a forward-looking piece. It says here, travel may be temporarily be grounded. However, we know the secret to a great vacation is in the planning. Check out the latest updates and new openings within the Six Senses portfolio. Okay. And so it's pretty well thought through, and it ends with all this social media click-throughs so as to build more followers. Okay, so that's the first company. The second company that we're looking at is Misul Resort. This newsletter is from Misul Foundation. Now, Misul Foundation is a charity arm of Misul Resort. And Misul Resort is based in Raja Ampat. It's an island, it's a private island resort with about 40 room, about 19 rooms, like water cottages. And they can only take about 40 guests, and they have a staff to guest ratio of 4:1. Okay, it's run by Andrew and Marit Miner, a husband-wife couple, and they are extraordinary in their conservation efforts. So for instance, they turned a shark finning camp into a conservation area. The fish biomass have increased by 250%. They worked with the local government to have no fish areas. And today they have a marine protected area that's twice the size of Singapore, okay, where I come from. So let's look at this newsletter. I get a newsletter from Misul Resort and Misul Foundation. And every newsletter is interesting to me, okay? The headline here, or the subject header, is Misul Foundation, new film about our recycling program. Okay, so it's descriptive. So there's a new film. Okay, that's good. And in the front, the top of the newsletter, there's this lovely picture of little turtle hatchlings trying to look for the water. And here is a summary of the article. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 articles. And here it says, what do you want to see more of? We'd love to hear from you. Okay, for a minute, you'll be mistaken and thinking that, oh, is this a National Geographic, you can tell them what you want to see or more of or hear of, and they'll give it to you. But no, it's just a resort, okay? And they are asking what you want to see more of. Now, this is the first story in that newsletter. It's about poachers in the Misul Marine Reserve. Remember the reserve that they created? They found poachers there during the COVID period. And they say here why COVID-19 cannot press pause on our ranger patrols. So this article is of urgency, okay, because there's this poaching taking place in this protected area where they're not supposed to. And this article says that they're not poor fishermen, they're foreign vessels with all the state-of-art technology like depth sounders, right? And let's look at the last paragraph. So they intercepted the vehicles. In the last paragraph, it says, with the support of the Marine Police, our team confiscated 150 kilograms of fish, including groupers, giant trevally, red snappers, and other ecologically sensitive fish. Okay. Now, for anyone who is interested in marine creatures, in marine life, in marine conservation, this is really important information, okay? Now, I would love to know what the other ecologically sensitive fish, were that they had fished out. And then look at this photograph here. It's an amazing photograph, of all the fish that had been confiscated, or maybe half of them, I'm not sure. And look at the different kinds of fish. Like, what is this fish here? Who can tell? It looks like a puffer to me, or a, yeah, it's or a scorpion fish. What is it? Ideally, it'll be nice to have a picture caption to say what the fish were, but just me wondering what fish that is tells you as a, how curious a reader can be. Okay, and let me ask you this question. Do you think this photograph has been taken accidentally, or do you think it has been well framed? Okay, and has it been taken shot for a purpose? Okay, let's move on to the next article. This article here talks about the temporary closure of the conservation, the foundation the temporary closure of Miso Resort created a large funding gap for our conservation work, okay, because the resort is one of the main funders. Now, this article communicates, and even when, when reading this line, I can tell, the unhappiness, that comes through, from the owners saying that they're struggling, okay, to maintain a conservation work. And here it says, at the end of April, we received confirmation that Walton Family Foundation has awarded Miso Foundation an emergency grant. Okay. And in the next paragraph, it says, throughout the last 15 years. Now, again, this is recap. What happened before? So you have a new reader, and the reader says, oh, you have been doing this for 15 years? Like, wow. Okay. So newsletter can recap what has happened in the past. Okay. So throughout the last 15 years, despite untold challenges, we've accomplished some amazing conservation wins, and we won't give up so easily. Now, look at the passion that comes through here. Okay, and the last line, for us, conservation never stops. Okay, and look at this photograph. It's about local people, and you can see that there's a woman there who's also working, and you have an idea of who is running this place. Okay, so you don't have photograph of the owner. You have photograph of people supporting the whole conservation effort. In the newsletter, they have put in this new film that's being made. Remember the subject header, new film about recycling program. It's called Bank Sampah. Sampah means rubbish in Malay language and in Indonesian language. So this is Rubbish Bank or Trash Bank, okay? And it's a film made by Protect Blue, either a film company or an NGO, and so it's not by Miso Resort, it's by somebody else. So you can do that too. You can feature work by your partners and, for the benefit of your stakeholders. This is an amazing article because I just love this. It says meet the team, and they introduce Rifat Muharram. Now, Rifat Muharram doesn't have a title of conservation officer. He is called a coral gardener. He's called a reef builder, and he's called a turtle saver, right? So very catchy words, but very descriptive as well. And this article, this paragraph here tells that he joined, his home is in Subang. Since 2 years ago, he moved to Miso. And there's this description about him managing the reef restoration. And when he's not managing the reef restoration, he helps to patrol. He joins a ranger patrols morning, evening, and night. Okay. And in the last line, let's read the last line together. If there is any time left in his day, he teaches the rangers about conservation. Okay. So this is a really good introduction to a staff in Miso Eco Resort. And immediately you can see from this guy what he does. Okay, but remember I spoke about point of view. Okay, so this article is still from the point of view of the narrator. The narrator is probably the owner or the manager. It's written about this person. Now, if it were me, I would write it from Rifat's point of view, and I'll say, "Hi, I'm Rifat. I came from West Java, and I used to be a teacher, but then I found this wonderful job in Miso that enables me to do scuba diving and teach, which I love, and when I'm not tending to the reef, I go out you know, with this petrol rangers, and it's dangerous, it's scary, but I'm also very excited because, you know, we came across this vessel, you know, so just that change of point of view, the change from he to I makes quite a bit of a difference. Okay, so this is another way of like approaching a story. And in any case, you know, I read this article and I look at Rifat and his smiling face, and I'm thinking, I want to go to Miso and I want to dive with this guy because he has such a nice smiling face and he takes great selfies. At the end of the newsletter, they thank their donors. There's a lot of names in there. So I think they took extra care not to miss out anybody. And there are archives to the previous newsletters that have been put out. So when you start a newsletter, you know, after a few editions, you know, people can still go back to your archives to read what has been written before. So it's a brilliant tool. So let's just look at the headlines again. Look at this one in 2017. It says, Miso newsletter, can you tell a bull shark from a gray reef? Okay, I think maybe a few divers out there might be able to tell, right? But if you're still learning, you really want to, and you probably click on it. Now let's go down again here in 2016. It says, what on earth is a snaggletooth shark, right? And what on earth is a snaggletooth shark? I don't know. So I think after the session, I'm going to click on that to read. And look at the one below that. It says, Miso. How many mantas did we ID this season? What was the average water temperature? This and much, much more. Now, you know, when I read this, I think, oh my gosh, you know, this kind of headline is for geeks like me, because I'm the kind of person who want to know how many mantas there are out there. And I'm the kind of person who want to know what the average water temperature is. And I'm also the kind of person who want to know how has the water temperature changed, or how has the temperature changed over the years. So in writing this subject header, in writing these articles, Miso Resort knows who they're talking to. They're talking to customers who are involved in responsible tourism. They are keen to know about the marine environment. They are concerned about climate change, and they want to travel with responsible operators. Okay, so that's Miso's e-newsletter. So I have given you samples of newsletters that hold stories. And once again, you know, why do we want to even go into storytelling? It is really a way to tell what's happening, to maintain contact, to build connection, to build a bond. Okay, and at the end of the day, you know, you really want to build friends, you know, friends, guests who are friends. Okay, so keep telling stories and use the various content platforms. You know, you can use social media, you can use your blog, but I've already highlighted, you know, why I think social media isn't very reliable, okay, as compared to e-newsletters. Good to maintain a database of stakeholders. You know, you can segment them according to customers or partners, you know, and then plan what you want to say to the various people, okay? And maybe draw up a schedule. Like once a month, you may want to reach out to your stakeholders, or once a month, you may want to reach out to your customers, and maybe you want to just merge them, okay? That's no harm in doing that, because I believe that if you are taking time to educate, you might as well educate as many people, as many segments as possible. And I think in the ecotourism sphere, you know, we all have our own ecosystem as well. So we deal with suppliers, you know, we deal with service providers. So we need to share our values, our ethics to our suppliers, right? So get them to come, you know, to be on the same wavelength as we are. Okay, and once again, techniques like point of view, tone of voice, all these things matter. And you know, review your goals. At the end of the day, you know, you want to measure what your goal is, and if you have achieved people, you know, if you have people writing back to you to say, I really enjoyed that story, or you know, can we see that bird that you had described, right? So I think these are success points. So I'd love to have your viewpoints, and you can ask me any questions you like. I would like to hear, you know, which newsletter appealed to you more, whether it was Six Senses or whether it was Misu, and why. And also, let me take this opportunity to thank you for your time, and for you to keep in touch with me. Please subscribe to Gaia Discovery's e-newsletter, because we like to reach out to people. And if you can, please, you know, list your email in the chat line, or drop me an email. My email is mel@gaiadiscovery.com. So over to you, Ms. Saru. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you, Mallika. If I could start sharing my screen, but let me just go to the Q&A session. I'm sure people have questions. So you can unmute yourself and briefly explain who you are. I can ask Mallika a question. It's time to do it now. Anyone? Well, I do have one from on the chat.
Okay.
Do you have suggestions on how for a community who runs ecotourism experiences but lacking skill in digital communication to reach potential market?
I think it would be good to get the services of a professional to help the community to do that. Yes. So, you know, if you can pay for the services, it's best to get that done. Otherwise, just have to get someone to help with the digital services or social media services. I think in any business, you know, you need to have some kind of a marketing platform, and social media itself, it's not very simple, and you need commitment. You need to schedule your posts in advance. So it's worthwhile to have companies to assist in that. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I've answered your question.
No, I think you did.
Who posted the question?
Named Vivian.
Okay. Yeah, there are companies out there who can help. Gaia Discovery itself, you know, we help people communicate. So, you know, we'll definitely be able to help if that's the case.
Yes, many are starting to put on a chat more of a comments, like people really like the your points, actionables, and including myself. It's a different language from from us consultants to include the media in action. It's very, very useful for us. So thank you so much for your guidance.
You're welcome.
Is there any other questions? We have a time for another question, maybe, if there is.
So can I just ask anyone, what to compare the two newsletters?
From the audience?
Yeah, from the audience, can I get a volunteer who would like to tell me what they thought about the two different newsletters?
Yeah, you can answer that audio or by chat. Mallika, are you able to see the group chat? Or
I am. Yep.
okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ian. I can answer the question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
Hi. So, Mallika, very nice presentation. Thank you for sharing. I think I'll say I like the butterfly presentation the most. Your own. but seriously, I think for me what you mentioned about the dive master, that was very good.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you so much for your comment.
Yeah, I see it. Anyone else would like to share? Okay, let's see. People say sample newsletters.
Right.
I have a question here from Sri Mujiati. How to make sure that our newsletter reach our audience? Sometimes newsletter pop up as spam. This is a bit difficult to avoid. It's a very good question. I think one way is to have the person sending out as a real person. So, for instance, if you run a mango resort, rather than it coming from admin@mangoresort.com, if it comes from Jennifer@mangoresort.com, chances are the search engines might think that it's a legitimate person, that's one. The other thing is to get your recipients to add your name to their contact address. Okay, so in your email, in your newsletter, have that at the end to say, please add my email to your contact address to avoid it ending up in the spam folder. Okay, you could try to use Gmail and send it out, and then in that Gmail you could say, please add this email to your contact address, and then go back to your mangoagency.com.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, I think it's just one of those things that it's really difficult to avoid.
Alrighty. Thank you so much. I think we're pretty much up to the time. Allow me to stop sharing your screen. And I need to share my screen if I could do this. For both of you who are here for the first time, just to let you know that Mallika's Gaia Discovery icon is also on the foot page of the AEN, so you can just click on that and go to her site, as Mallika is, of course, the media partner with the AEN. For housekeeping, for today's session is now being recorded, and if you are going to register us through AEN website, you just need to click on web members and enter your name and email address, and you can confirm then you're in. And then once you're in, you can log in and you can put your member profile. But we also have this e-learning archive in the past sessions. So Mallika's will be soon up there before the weekend. And we also have ecotourism related files, which are from UNWTO, or some presented slides are also here. So you can download them from here. And we also have the members forum. If you'd like to introduce yourself, if you have any questions, we can be more actively engaged, so it is more interactive. It's something that you can do from your desktop or with your fingertips. So that's something we would highly encourage you to join, so you can also receive our newsletter that comes out periodically. So that is from me as a housekeeping from Asian Ecotourism Network. We do not have anything more scheduled at the moment, although we will let you know through our Facebook, and also our if you join us on this web members, we try to inform you the next coming e-session. But we are also scheduled to have our board meeting in the first week of June. So that's why we may have some time pause until the next action. But thank you very much again for supporting us. And thank you, Mallika, for sharing your wonderful story. We are much more wiser, and we want to experiment with newsletters, especially with the ones that who have this operation with ecotourism, who also trying to implement during this very difficult time. So thank you, Mallika, again, and I hope to see you again on this digital, but we are all human beings. We all enjoy ecotourism. So that's it for me, and a good afternoon and good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, and hope you have a good day.
Thank you, everybody, for your time, and I hope to hear your story, okay? So please write to me.
Thank you, Mallika.
This COVID-19 is a terrible, terrible time. It's a very lonely time.
It is,
so
it is.
I have time to read stories, so, just write to me and say hello, you know, like what you're doing, okay?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And
I will write to you.
Give you all tips, you know, if you want more tips.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We would always like more tips.
What's that? Sorry?
We would always like more tips.
We'll fly to.
Thank you, very informative. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, Ari. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Masaru.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk to you.
Bye. Thank
All right.
Thank you, Masaru, for sharing the session. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.